Welcome, fellow traveler. Tonight, I invite you to journey with me back to a time not so distant, to 1940s Germany, a place caught in the grip of war, uncertainty, and profound human struggle. But rather than stand in the shoes of generals or leaders, tonight we'll walk in the weary steps of everyday people, the civilians, the conscripts, the displaced, those who endured a world unraveling around them. A glimpse into the pressure, fear, and exhaustion that touched every hour of daily life. It's a window into a reality many didn't choose, but were forced to live. Before we begin, take a moment to dim the lights and settle somewhere quiet. Though the subject may be heavy, I've created this story with care to offer reflection, empathy, and maybe even rest as we gently explore a chapter of history that shaped the world. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from tonight. It's always moving to see how stories can connect people across time and place. Let me know in the comments below. And if this journey through the past speaks to you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you'll have a place to return when you're ready for another story to fall asleep to. Now, take a deep breath, and let's begin our quiet walk through one unforgettable day in Germany in the Second World War. You wake up to silence, but not the peaceful kind. It's the kind of silence that follows something violent. The air in the room still smells faintly of smoke and masonry dust. The window, though intact, rattles in its frame with every gust of wind. The blackout curtains hang stiff and still, blocking out the gray light of early morning. You keep them closed. Everyone does. You can never be too careful. You are in your apartment in Berlin. It is 1943. You are 31 years old. Your name is not important. You live on the third floor of a narrow, aging building on a street that looks just like every other street. Stone buildings, dark windows, red and black flags flapping faintly from certain balconies. There are fewer balconies than there used to be. A bombing raid struck 2 blocks over last night, and you felt it, every rumble of impact like a punch in the stomach. You have learned that when the sirens wail, hesitation is dangerous. The first sounds you hear are distant: an engine, a cartwheel turning over cobblestones, a door slamming shut somewhere on the ground floor. Then closer, the clatter of a kettle in the kitchen, the faint voice of your younger brother coughing in the next room, your mother quietly humming a hymn she no longer sings aloud. No one sings anymore, not really. Your apartment is small, 4 rooms for 5 people. You share it with your mother, your brother, his wife, and their infant daughter. There is no hot water. The toilet is down the hall and shared with 2 other families. There are cracks in the plaster, especially around the ceiling, and a large piece of the cornice fell during a raid 2 weeks ago. You have not had the courage to ask for repairs. Better not to draw attention to yourself. You swing your legs over the edge of the bed and press your feet to the cold floor. You pull your boots on, checking the laces for damage. You do this every morning, even though you know they will be fine. It gives you something to focus on while you prepare yourself for another day. You reach for your coat and place your papers into the inner pocket, the little green booklet that proves your identity, your address, your clearance to work. You always carry it. You hear the radio click on in the kitchen. A voice drones in sharp, clipped tones. You know the sound well. It's the minister again, delivering the usual lines about victory, perseverance, sacrifice, and vigilance. His voice has the rhythm of a sermon. It tells you how proud you should be, How lucky you are to serve. How noble it is to endure hunger, silence, and loss. Breakfast is waiting on the small kitchen table. A heel of bread shared between the 5 of you. A single boiled egg sliced into quarters. A spoonful of jam that your brother's wife somehow managed to acquire. No one asks how, it's better not to know. Your mother pours weak tea into chipped cups made from herbs gathered near the Tiergarten. No one talks much during breakfast. It is safer that way. The conversations you used to have about books, music, politics died years ago. Now everything is calculated, neutral, a comment on the weather, a remark about the neighbor's new coat, a soft sigh over the shortage of sugar or soap. Even those comments are risky if spoken too loudly. It's illegal to pull them back during blackout hours. The thought occurs to you that there might not be a window tomorrow, that the street might be rubble, that your building could vanish overnight like the ones on Fischerstrasse. You let the thought pass. You cannot afford to dwell on it. The child begins to cry, and your mother hushes her softly, bouncing her on one hip. The sound feels too loud in the room, even though it's perfectly ordinary. You think of your neighbor on the first floor, the old man with the stiff leg, who listens to every noise. You've never been sure whether he's just a bitter recluse, or if he reports what he hears. There is no way to know. You only know that 2 families in the building disappeared last winter. Their rooms were cleared the same day. You finish your bread. Your stomach still aches, but you tell yourself it's enough. You are luckier than some. You have a job, and your ration cards are up to date. You button your coat and adjust your collar. Before you leave, you stand still in the hallway for a moment, looking at your reflection in the darkened glass of the doorframe. Your eyes look older than they should. There are lines at the corners of your mouth that you never used to have. Your hair is clean, but thinning. You straighten your posture, then lower your head slightly, the way people do now. To look too confident is suspicious. To look too afraid is also suspicious. You have learned to look like nothing at all. You pick up your satchel and head for the stairs. Your mother wishes you a quiet day. She never says good anymore. That word has lost its meaning. A quiet day is all anyone hopes for. The stairwell smells of dust and boiled cabbage. You hear the hum of a conversation from behind a door, then silence when your steps draw near. On the 2nd floor, a woman nods at you as she climbs upward. Her eyes do not meet yours. Outside, the street is wet from a night of cold rain. A streetcar rumbles in the distance. No one speaks. Footsteps echo along the sidewalk, blending with the whistle of distant air raid sirens being tested somewhere across the river. This is your morning. You are in 1940s Germany, and you already feel tired. You return home earlier than expected. The plant was closed today, supposedly for maintenance, though you suspect there is more to it than that. Rumors of sabotage have been circulating, whispers that someone had stolen small items or tampered with a storage room. You did not ask questions. No one did. When the supervisor announced the closure, you kept your head down and left with the others, pretending not to notice the 2 men in dark coats who entered the office minutes later. Now, as you re-enter your apartment, the smell of boiled turnips greets you before your boots leave the mat. It is faint, nearly gone, but it still lingers in the corners of the flat. You take off your coat and hang it carefully by the door. Your mother appears from the kitchen, her hands red from washing, and her face pinched with the tension that never seems to leave her. She says nothing at first, She glances at the clock on the wall, then at you. Home already? She asks. You nod. They sent us out. No work today. She does not ask why. She knows better. A pause stretches between you. She presses her hands together, as if she might wring something from them. Then she steps aside, letting you pass into the kitchen without another word. The table is set, not with much, but with effort. A chipped plate holds the last of the week's bread, which has been carefully sliced into even pieces. There is a small bowl with a thin cabbage soup. One spoon lies beside it, resting on a cloth napkin that has been folded and reused so many times it has faded into something the color of old parchment. The radio sits silent on the shelf. It is rarely turned on now. The broadcasts are always the same, and two loud voices carry through thin walls. Your brother is already seated at the table, his eyes trained on a book of figures. He works at a fuel depot, and numbers have become his armor. He studies them with the seriousness of someone preparing for war. His wife sits beside him, holding their child against her chest. The baby sleeps soundly, her breath soft and fast, her tiny hand curled into a fist. You watch the baby for a moment, envious of the innocence. She knows nothing of rations or raids. She has not yet learned to fear her own voice. You sit down without speaking. No one looks up. The meal begins in near silence. Your mother ladles soup into bowls with a slow, practiced hand. She offers each portion with a nod, not a smile. The bread is passed around the table. You take a piece and chew slowly. It is dry and tough, but you make it last. You sip the soup and feel its warmth settle in your stomach, however briefly. Conversation does not come easily in this house anymore. It is not just caution that silences you. It is habit. Years of careful speech have reshaped your interactions. Even within the walls of your own home, words are chosen like rations, limited, measured, and never wasted. You used to talk about books, about poetry. Your brother once played piano, his fingers nimble and confident, but the piano was sold for firewood 2 winters ago. The conversations disappeared with it. Did you see the smoke? Your brother asks, quietly. You look up. He does not look at you. He continues, flipping through his ledger, eyes steady. I smelled it, you answer, voice low. Warehouse fire, your mother says softly, wiping her hands on a towel, near the southern rail yard. There is a pause. You know there is more behind those words, but no one says it aloud. Fires can mean accidents. They can also mean retaliation or erasure. You chew another bite of bread and let the silence return. The baby stirs and begins to cry. The sound fills the room like a bell ringing through fog. Your sister-in-law murmurs something soothing and rocks her gently. The baby's cries grow louder for a moment, then fade into soft hiccups. When she quiets, your mother looks at her and smiles. Not a full smile, but something close to it. The kind of smile that slips past exhaustion for just a moment and then vanishes again. We have visitors today, she says, not looking at anyone in particular. You feel your chest tighten. Who? Schmidt, she replies. The party liaison, of course, the local official who makes his rounds twice a month, checking on ration cards, listening to gossip, reminding families of their duties. He is polite in a hollow way, but he watches everything. He asks too many questions. He compliments the child, then glances at the books on the shelf. He always comments on the bookshelf. He once asked why your family still owned so many. You exchange glances with your brother, but nothing is said. Did he say what time? Your sister-in-law asks. "He never does." Your mother replies, "He comes when he wants." You push the last of the bread into your mouth. The soup is gone. Your stomach feels slightly more full than it did before. But your appetite is buried beneath the sense of unease creeping in from the corners of the room. Everyone moves with purpose after breakfast. The table is cleared quickly. Crumbs swept, bowls rinsed, napkins folded. The bookshelf is checked. Any questionable titles are hidden behind more acceptable ones. The apartment is tidy already, but your mother dusts the mantel again anyway. She straightens a portrait that always leans to the left. Your brother removes his work boots and puts on polished shoes. You take the coat from the hook and inspect the seams, making sure nothing inside could be considered improper. Even the baby is cleaned and dressed in her best cotton gown, though it is worn thin around the collar. The apartment feels smaller as the day wears on. The expectation of a knock at the door stretches the hours like thread pulled too tight. Every footstep in the hallway makes you flinch. Every murmur from the stairwell brings your thoughts to a halt. And always, in the background, the silence hums. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that waits. The kind you cannot outrun. You step outside, and the air greets you with a faint temps of coal smoke and damp brick. The street is gray, not only from the sky above, but from the layers of dust and ash that seem to cling to every surface. Nothing here is vibrant. Nothing moves quickly. The buildings lean slightly forward, as if the weight of the past few years has made them buckle under the strain. You close the door behind you without slamming it, taking care not to make more noise than necessary. Noise attracts attention. You have learned that lesson more than once. You begin walking. Your boots echo softly against the cobblestones. Each step, another small reminder that the world you move through is never entirely yours. You pass the bakery on the corner, or what remains of it. The windows are boarded up now. It closed 6 months ago after the owner was arrested. No one ever said why, but everyone knows how fast suspicion spreads. One day he was selling loaves. The next day his shop was dark, and a red sealed notice had been nailed to the door. People spoke of it for a few days, and then they stopped. It is better not to remember too much about people who vanish. On the wall across from the bakery, a new poster has been pasted up. It is large and bold, the lettering thick and triumphant. The message is simple: obey, serve, believe. You see these slogans everywhere, on billboards, in train stations, above chalkboards, in classrooms. They blend into the landscape after a while, part of the background noise of survival. But on some mornings, like this one, you notice them again, and they feel heavier than usual. A line has already formed outside the ration office. People stand with arms folded, their breath visible in the morning chill, their expressions neutral. No one talks. The queue is long, but no one dares push forward. You pass by, careful not to make eye contact with anyone. There is always the chance that someone might recognize you, or worse, think they do. You have lived in this neighborhood for years, yet there are people you never speak to. That distance is intentional. Familiarity breeds assumptions. Assumptions lead to rumors. Rumors are dangerous. Two men in long coats stand near a bench by the streetcar stop. Their posture is casual, but you know better. You have seen them before, always just observing. Their eyes do not follow the train schedule or the pigeons fluttering by the gutter. They follow people. You have heard them called by many names: secret police, informants, watchers. No one knows for certain who they work for. only that they are always there. Their presence is enough to remind you that even in public, you must guard every word, every glance, every gesture. A tram screeches to a halt nearby, metal grinding against metal. You step back to avoid the splash from a puddle as it rolls through. People crowd inside without speaking. A conductor shouts orders to board quickly, his voice sharp. You choose to walk instead. You do not want to be trapped among others today. There is something about the streets that feels wrong, though you cannot say exactly what it is. Perhaps it is the way people move briskly, eyes down, expressions closed. Or perhaps it is something more subtle, something in the air itself. You pass a courtyard where children once played. Now it stands empty. A few bicycles lean against a wall, rust creeping over the spokes. A flag hangs from the upper windows of the adjacent building, red and white, fluttering weakly in the wind. A boy from your building used to live there. You recall his laughter, his chalk drawings on the sidewalk. He is gone now. His father, too. No one says their names anymore. Turning a corner, you see a group of students marching in formation down the street, dressed in brown uniforms, boots polished, eyes straight ahead. A man walks beside them, barking out commands in clipped syllables. You pause and wait for them to pass. Their chants rise together in unison, rehearsed and hollow. You wonder how many of them believe in what they shout. You wonder how many are pretending, like everyone else. You wonder if pretending is enough to survive. A woman across the street drops a parcel. She stoops to retrieve it, but a soldier reaches it first and hands it to her with a nod. She thanks him, her voice too high, her smile too eager. He does not smile back. He continues walking, his rifle slung across his back, his eyes scanning the windows above. The woman hurries away. She does not look back. You realize you have been standing still too long, so you start walking again. The church near the park has been closed for repairs since spring. The doors are chained. The windows are boarded. A new sign has been posted near the entrance, declaring it under state inspection. People still leave flowers there, tucked into cracks in the stone. Quiet acts of remembrance. Small gestures of defiance. Maybe you do not leave flowers. You do not linger. Even reverence can be reported. You reach the tram crossing near Alexanderplatz and wait behind a short metal railing. A man beside you coughs twice, sharp and dry. You glance at him. His coat is thin and his face pale. He pulls a scarf up over his mouth and says nothing. A soldier stationed nearby shifts his stance and watches him. The man stiffens, then lowers his head. The tram passes by in a gust of cold air and diesel fumes. A siren sounds in the distance, not an air raid, just a warning test, the kind that runs every few days to remind you that war is still happening, even if you cannot see it from where you stand. You feel it anyway. You feel it in the way people move, in the hollow stores, in the thick silence that falls whenever anyone speaks of loss. You feel it in the way you measure every breath, as though it might be your last without even realizing you are doing it. At a bulletin board near the corner, fresh names have been added to the lists. Names of the fallen, names of those missing, names of those decorated. The paper is clean, the ink dark. The notices are printed, never handwritten. A man stands reading them. He does not weep. He does not speak. He simply stares until his eyes lose focus. You keep walking. You reach the edge of the marketplace and pause beneath a wooden awning. The stalls are fewer than they used to be. Fruit is scarce. Meat nearly non-existent. A few potatoes, Cabbages and jars of preserved mushrooms sit beneath cracked tarpaulins. The vendors say little. They measure and hand over items. They do not bargain anymore. You check your pocket for your ration card. It is there, intact, stamped, valid for the month. You have memorized every mark on it. You do not speak unless asked a direct question. The woman behind the stall hands you a turnip and 3 small onions. You nod your thanks and move on. Behind you, a man is asked to show his card again. His voice trembles. The vendor's tone sharpens. You do not turn around. You begin walking home, arms heavier than they should be, heart beating a little faster than before. The city has not changed much in the last hour, but something inside you has. You are reminded once again that in this place, on this street, at this hour, your survival depends on remaining unseen. The building is as it has always been, wide stone steps, an iron door, and rows of windows that reflect the sky without ever revealing anything inside. It stands like a monument to authority, blunt and unmoving. As you approach, you instinctively smooth your collar and check your papers again. Not because you expect trouble, but because trouble does not always arrive with warning. Your shoes are clean, your coat brushed. You look like someone with nothing to hide. That is the appearance you must maintain. Inside, the corridor smells of ink and old paper. The lights overhead flicker softly with the current. You hear footsteps echo against tile. The sound of a telephone rings somewhere far down the hall, sharp and mechanical. You nod to the guard near the entrance. He barely looks at you but makes a mark on his clipboard as you pass. The man is always there. You do not know his name. You have never heard him speak. Still, you nod every time. You walk past a long wall of framed photographs, portraits of senior party officials, each one staring forward with a severe expression. You do not pause to look at them. You learned early on that lingering too long could be misunderstood. Admire them too, obviously, and you look like you are performing. Look away too quickly, and you appear disinterested. The safest posture is always one of polite indifference. Just enough to suggest respect, but not enough to suggest ambition. Ambition attracts questions. Your office is on the 2nd floor. Room 207, a long, narrow space filled with 4 desks, a filing cabinet, a wall clock, and a black telephone that almost never rings. The other clerks are already seated when you arrive. No one says, "Good morning." They simply nod or glance up briefly, then return to their work. You remove your coat, hang it on the wall hook, and sit down. The ledger is already on your desk. You open it and begin copying figures, line by line, from one form to another. This is your job, to transfer data in exact handwriting from one official form to another. You have no idea what the numbers mean. You do not ask. The stamps must be placed in the right corner. The boxes must be filled. Any mistake must be crossed out with red ink and sealed. All records must be clean, consistent, and traceable. That is the rule. Outside the office, you can hear the shuffle of paper and the steady beat of typewriters. The rhythm is soothing in a way, mechanical, predictable, but it does not remove the tension that hums beneath every sound. At one point, the door opens and a man in uniform steps inside. He does not speak. He simply walks to the filing cabinet, removes a folder, and leaves. No one questions him. No one looks directly at him. When the door closes, you exhale slowly and continue writing. There are posters in the hallway about productivity, loyalty, and the duty of every citizen. You pass them daily, but you no longer see them as separate things. They are simply part of the wall now, like the electric switches or the cracks in the paint. There is one poster that shows a pair of eyes, wide and alert, with a caption that reads, "Someone is always watching." It is not meant to be poetic. It is meant to be literal. The woman seated 2 desks over coughs once, then rubs her eyes. Her name is Marta. You have worked beside her for over a year. You know little about her. She is quiet, efficient, and always arrives 10 minutes early. She wears the same gray dress most days. Once, several months ago, she spoke to you during the lunch break. She asked where you were from. You answered with a town near the Rhine. She nodded, smiled once, and never asked again. That is the most personal exchange you have had with anyone here. When the supervisor enters the room, everyone stiffens. His name is Brent. He is tall, thin, and rarely raises his voice. But when he does, it is sharp and final. He walks behind each desk, inspecting work, checking forms. When he reaches you, he pauses. His eyes rest on the page you are filling out. You stop writing, hands still, pen hovering. After a moment, he grunts softly, nods once, and moves on. That is a good sign. You think. Once, during a lunch break, a young man from the 3rd floor joked about a misprint in a state flyer. Something about the minister's name being spelled incorrectly. It was not a joke spoken loudly. It was whispered, passed like a note across a crowded room. 3 days later, his desk was empty. No explanation. No one asked where he had gone. His name was no longer spoken aloud. His coffee cup remained on his desk for a week before someone quietly removed it. You remember that cup more than the man. At noon, the bell rings for the midday break. You rise with the others and walk to the hall with your ration token. The cafeteria is stark and silent. Rows of tables, long benches, and a small serving window. You are handed a tray with cabbage soup and a piece of gray bread. The bread is dry, the soup is watery. No one complains. You sit and eat, eyes low. Around you, others eat in silence, each one enclosed in their own invisible shell. A few talk softly, but most simply chew and swallow. Across the room, you see 2 men whispering. Their heads lean close, their hands cover their mouths. You do not know them, but the sight makes you uncomfortable. You finish your meal quickly and return to your desk. The rest of the afternoon is the same. Lines, forms, numbers, ink. You check your watch too often. You catch yourself doing it and stop. You must not appear impatient. You must not appear distracted. You finish a file, tie the string around the folder, and place it on the shelf with the others. You count them silently, though it has no purpose. It helps fill the silence. At 3 o'clock, a shadow passes your window. You glance outside. A truck rolls past the building, its canvas flaps tied shut. You do not look too closely. The trucks come and go without schedule. No one knows what they carry. No one wants to know. By the time 5 o'clock nears, your eyes ache and your fingers are stained with ink. When the final bell rings, you close your ledger, cap your pen, and stand. You do not speak to anyone. You put on your coat, button it with steady hands, and walk out into the corridor. You pass the guard again. He still does not look at you. Outside, the sun has already begun to fall behind the rooftops. The wind bites at your face. You begin the walk home, retracing the path you took this morning. Each step forward feels like a small act of release, but only just. You survived the day. Your forms were correct. Your name was not called. That is enough. You keep your eyes down and move quickly. You are only a few blocks from home, but every corner feels like it leads into another question you do not want to answer. The knock comes just as you sit down to untie your boots. 3 soft, deliberate taps, too polite to be a warning, but too cold to be casual. The room goes still. Your mother looks up from the stove, her hands frozen above the pot. Your brother straightens, his expression emptying like a man bracing for cold water. You know that rhythm. It is not a neighbor asking for a favor. It is not the mailman. It is the kind of knock that arrives without an invitation, without explanation, and with 1,000 possible meanings. No one says anything. You rise slowly, as if speed might draw attention. You cross the narrow room and place your hand on the doorknob. For a moment, you consider not opening it. You consider pretending no one is home, but they always know. Someone always sees. You turn the knob and open the door. 2 men stand outside. Their uniforms are pressed and dark. Their shoes shine. One of them holds a folded paper. The other's hands are behind his back. They do not look angry. They do not look kind. They look like officials. They look like decisions dressed in fabric. They ask for you by name. You nod. They hand you the paper. It is stamped, official. An invitation, they say, to answer a few routine questions. You try to read their tone, but there is nothing there, just formality, just procedure. You nod again, say you understand, and step into the hallway. You hear your mother move behind you, quietly gathering the baby in her arms. She does not speak. Your brother remains seated, his eyes fixed on the table. The hallway feels narrower than usual. You walk between the 2 men, one slightly ahead, the other just behind. No one says a word. You pass your neighbor's door. You do not knock. You descend the stairs, boots clicking softly, your heartbeat louder than your steps. When you reach the street, a black car waits with its engine running. You are led into the back seat. The door closes with a heavy sound that feels final. The car moves through streets you recognize, but each corner feels unfamiliar now. Shops you pass daily seem like sets in a play. Pedestrians blur into shadows. The city feels distant, as though you are watching it through thick glass. You glance at the men beside you, but their faces are still and unreadable. You do not ask questions. You do not speak. After 20 minutes, the car stops outside a gray building with no signs. It is clean, but not inviting. One of the men steps out and gestures for you to follow. Inside, the hallway is quiet. A receptionist at a desk barely glances at you. You are led through a door, down a short corridor, and into a small room with a table, 2 chairs, and no windows. The walls are plain. The floor is bare. The single light overhead casts a long shadow across the table. You are told to sit. You do. One of the men sits across from you. The other stands in the corner, arms folded, eyes watching. A file is opened. Pages are turned. The man seated looks up at you and smiles faintly. Not kindly, not cruelly, just enough to unsettle. He asks how long you have lived at your current address. He asks where you were yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He asks who else was in the office at that time. He asks if you noticed anything unusual. His voice is calm, patient. The questions do not feel hostile, but they are too precise. Each one is a thread, and you sense that pulling it in the wrong direction could unravel something. You answer carefully, not too quickly, not too slowly. You do not guess. You say what you remember, and nothing more. You mention that you were working, copying records, that you left for lunch, returned, and completed your files. The man nods as you speak, as though he already knows what you will say. He places a photograph on the table. It shows a man. You recognize him. He worked in the same office as you, on the 3rd floor. He was not someone you spoke to often. You remember his voice, quiet and clipped. You remember that he often kept to himself. The man across from you asks how well you knew him. You say you did not. The official asks whether you recall him speaking about the party, about his beliefs, about anyone else in the office. You say no. Another photograph appears. This time, it is a document, a form unsigned, with markings that look official. The man asks whether you have ever seen it before. You say no. He tilts his head slightly, watching your expression. He asks whether anyone in your family reads foreign newspapers, whether you have any friends who speak against the government, whether you have ever written to someone outside the city, whether you have ever purchased materials from unauthorized sellers. Each question feels heavier than the one before. You answer calmly. You are aware of every movement of your hands, every shift in your posture. You try not to sweat. You try not to blink too often. You try not to appear nervous, because nervousness is suspicious. But too much ease is also dangerous. You find yourself caught in the space between what is true and what sounds believable. The man closes the file. He looks at you for a long moment. Then he says, "You may leave." You do not move at first. You wait for something more. Another question, a change in tone, a correction, but none comes. You stand slowly. The other man opens the door. You walk through it. The hallway feels colder now. The receptionist does not look up as you pass. Outside, the car is gone. You are told to walk home. You do. The air feels heavier, the streets more unfamiliar. You glance behind you every few blocks, convinced you are being followed. No one is there. And yet, the feeling does not leave you. You pass a mirror in a shop window and barely recognize your own reflection. You look smaller, thinner. Your shoulders are hunched. Your eyes are wide. When you finally reach your building, you pause before entering. You do not want to bring this fear inside with you, but you have no choice. Fear does not wait at the door. It follows. Your mother is sitting in the kitchen when you return. She says nothing, just pours you a cup of weak tea. Your brother does not look up. You sit in silence. The ticking of the clock is the only sound in the room. You survived the questions, but they will remain behind your thoughts, like dust in the corners of your mind. Tomorrow, you will go back to work. You will smile when expected. You will walk quickly and keep your voice soft, because now you know exactly how close the fear lives, and that it wears a face you cannot forget. The evening feels too still. The streets, usually tense but occupied, are now oddly quiet. It is not the comforting quiet of rest, but something more hollow, as though the city has exhaled and forgotten how to breathe again. You feel it in your chest before you even step outside, a tightness, an instinct, a pressure you cannot explain. You are coming back from the market. In your satchel are 2 withered carrots, half a loaf of barley bread, and a small tin of pickled beets. The walk home is not far. You know every stone in the path, every corner where plaster has fallen from the buildings, every shop with broken windows that have never been repaired. You pass the tram line and see a woman pulling her child close to her side. They are not rushing, but their steps are sharp, deliberate. You do not need to ask why. Above you, the clouds are thin, letting through the last pale light of the sun. You look up without meaning to. It is a habit you picked up months ago. You are always watching the sky. Everyone is. It does not matter how tired you are or how much weight you carry. The sky has become a threat, and threats are always overhead. Then it comes, the first siren, a single, rising howl that pierces through every wall, every window, every thought. It lasts only seconds, but it stretches across your mind like a wire pulled tight. The second siren follows immediately. Its tone dips lower, like a groan of warning. Around you, people start to move faster. No one screams, no one shouts. They have done this before. There is no panic, only urgency. A woman drops her satchel and keeps running. A man grabs the hand of someone who is not his child. People know what to do, but that does not make it less terrifying. You turn quickly, already calculating the nearest shelter. The one beneath the print shop is closest, though it is old and poorly ventilated. The better one, the concrete bunker by the school, is 3 blocks farther. You hesitate for only a moment, then begin to run toward the print shop. Your boots strike the pavement with loud, uneven thuds. Each breath you take tastes like metal. Your fingers tighten around your satchel, even though you know the food will not matter if you are hit. Your legs move without rhythm. You do not think about where you are stepping. You just run. The print shop is closed, but the basement doors beside it have already been opened. A line of people pours inside. You reach the entrance and slip through the crowd, descending a narrow stairwell into darkness that smells of oil and old paper. A hand grabs your arm to steady you. You do not know whose it is. You do not look. You simply nod, keep moving, and find a space along the back wall. The ceiling is low. The air is warm, stale, heavy with breath. Around you, the sounds of rustling clothes, quiet murmurs, and stifled coughs fill the room. Someone lights a lantern, and the orange glow pushes back the dark, revealing faces that are pale and blank. People of every age are here. An old man gripping a cane with shaking hands. A young couple holding each other in silence. A child too young to understand why no one is talking. Eyes glance upward instinctively. The floor above is thin. You can hear the creak of footsteps above, then nothing. Then the first explosion hits. It is distant but unmistakable. A low, dull thud that shakes dust from the ceiling. The light flickers. Several people flinch. A baby begins to cry. No one hushes her. No one speaks at all. You feel the vibrations through your shoes, as if the earth itself has turned against you. Another boom follows, closer this time. The room trembles. A few people crouch lower, their backs pressed to the walls. You think of your family, still at home, perhaps already in the shelter beneath your building. You picture your mother holding the baby, whispering old lullabies into her ear. You picture your brother checking the door again, making sure the latch holds. You want to believe they made it in time. You need to believe it. The next detonation sends a crack down the plaster above you. Someone gasps. The lantern wobbles on its hook. The scent of sweat, fear, and damp wood fills your nostrils. You can hear the planes now, the low drone of engines overhead. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They move in waves, heavy and slow, a sound that crawls through the air like thunder wrapped in metal. There is no way to know where the next bomb will fall. No system, no mercy. You sit motionless, your knees drawn up to your chest, one hand gripping your satchel, the other pressed to the ground, As if to measure the strength of each tremor, time slows. Minutes stretch endlessly. 1 second bleeds into the next. You close your eyes, not to sleep, not to escape, but to hold your breath against the sound of death. A whine begins overhead, shrill and descending. It is a sound you have come to fear more than any voice or order or uniform. It is the sound of something falling with purpose. The impact comes with such force that your ears ring and your vision flashes white. The floor heaves beneath you. The lantern goes out. The room plunges into blackness. You feel your chest tighten. You are not sure if the roof will hold. You are not sure if you are buried. You are not sure if you are alive. Then you hear coughing, a voice, another. Someone lights a match. The lantern flickers back to life. It is still standing. So is the ceiling. You are still here. Around you, the people begin to exhale, softly, slowly, as if afraid the sound will bring another strike. The baby has stopped crying. In the dim light, you see eyes glistening with tears. No one weeps aloud. Everyone knows to wait until later. The bombing continues for another half hour. Though the strikes come farther apart, the planes begin to fade into the distance. The engines soften. The sky quiets. One by one, people rise to their feet. No one speaks of relief. It is too early for that. Too fragile. The stairwell groans as people climb upward again. You follow them slowly, one step at a time, as though testing the world with each movement. Outside, the sky is darker. Ash drifts down like snowflakes. The street, a building 2 blocks over, is gone. Not damaged, gone. In its place is a smoking crater, framed by jagged bricks and twisted iron. Flames lick the edges of what remains. A fire brigade works silently, their hoses already trained on the ruin. You smell scorched fabric and burning wood. You think you smell something worse, but you do not look long enough to know. You walk home in silence. Every sound echoes too loudly. Your footsteps, your breath, even the rustling of your coat. When you reach your apartment, you find the building still standing. The door opens before you can knock. Your brother's eyes meet yours. He steps aside. You enter. Your mother is holding the baby. Her face is drawn but calm. No one says anything. The smell of burned air still clings to your clothes. You remove your coat and sit down at the table. There is no dinner. There is no conversation, just silence. You are safe for now. But outside, the sky is still watching, and it will not always be kind. The knock comes just after noon, firm and precise. 2 short raps, followed by 1 long. It is not the hesitant tapping of a neighbor or the polite rhythm of a courier. It is a pattern you have come to recognize, even if no one has ever spoken of it directly. Your breath catches before you reach the door, and your fingers hesitate just a moment on the handle. In the brief silence, you hear your mother place the baby gently on the bed. Your brother stands, just out of view, back straight, shoulders tight. You open the door. He stands in uniform. Not the gray of the soldiers or the black of the internal police, but a brown coat, crisply pressed, the collar high and stiff. A red armband is fixed tightly around his sleeve. His boots are spotless. His hair is slicked back, combed so precisely it seems painted on. His face carries the expression you've come to expect from men like him, mildly amused, faintly condescending, and entirely in control. He is not here as a guest. He is here to remind you that you are being watched. He does not ask to enter. He simply steps forward, and you move aside. Behind him, a second man carries a clipboard, thinner, younger. His eyes do not settle on anything for long. The two of them walk into your kitchen as if it belongs to them. Your mother, calm on the surface, greets them in the formal tone everyone uses now, the one that implies both gratitude and fear. The party official returns the greeting with a shallow nod, his eyes already scanning the shelves, the walls, the table. You offer him a seat. He does not take it. Instead, he begins asking questions. He asks to see your ration books, and you hand them over. He flips through the pages with the detached interest of someone checking the weather. He comments on the neatness of your stamps, the punctuality of your attendance at the local depot. His words are not praise, they are notes, observations. He asks how many live in the apartment, what each of you does for work, and whether you are satisfied with your current housing conditions. You tell him you are. You say this not because it is true, but because dissatisfaction is its own form of accusation. The younger man scribbles notes as the questions continue. Your mother answers some of them. Your brother remains silent unless spoken to. The baby stirs in her blanket but does not cry. The silence in the room is so complete that you hear the scratch of pencil on paper like the ticking of a clock. He asks if you have heard anything suspicious lately, anything unusual, any neighbors acting strangely, speaking critically, receiving visitors at odd hours. He poses the questions lightly, with the tone of someone asking about the weather, but they hang in the air like smoke. Everyone knows what these questions mean. They are not seeking information as much as they are offering a test. You shake your head and say no, nothing unusual. You keep your tone level, your words neutral. You do not speak too quickly, and you do not hesitate. The official watches your face closely, not because he expects you to lie, but because he wants to know how you behave while telling the truth. That is just as important. He walks toward the bookshelf and runs a finger along the spines. Some of the volumes have been carefully arranged to look ordinary. Manuals, maps, small prayer books. You had removed anything controversial long ago. Still, he lingers. He plucks one off the shelf and flips through it casually. You say nothing. He asks about your employment, how long you have held your current position, whether you have been recognized for your diligence, whether your supervisors have offered feedback. You say that you enjoy the work and that your performance has always met expectations. He nods again, seemingly satisfied. He steps toward the window and pulls back the curtain slightly, peering out toward the street. Then he lets it fall back into place. The younger man jots another note. Then the official turns to you more directly. His tone shifts slightly, becoming more casual, almost friendly. He speaks of duty, of unity, of the importance of ordinary citizens remaining vigilant. He reminds you that the war is not only being fought on battlefields, but also here, in neighborhoods like yours. Every household, he says, is a fortress of values. Every man and woman plays a role in ensuring order is maintained. He says these words, not as if sharing an opinion, but as if repeating an eternal truth. He asks whether you would be willing to report anything unusual in the future. He phrases it kindly, almost like a favor. He says it helps protect the neighborhood, that it keeps everyone safe. You nod. You say yes, of course. It is the only answer to give. The visit continues for another 10 minutes. The questions taper off. The atmosphere remains taut. No one speaks out of turn. When he finally gestures to leave, Your mother steps forward and offers a thank you that sounds as rehearsed as a hymn. He smiles again, though the smile never reaches his eyes. The younger man closes the clipboard. As they step back into the hallway, the party official turns and says that he is pleased to see such a clean and orderly home. He tells you that it reflects well on your family. He adds that a home like this contributes to the strength of the entire community. Then he nods once, and they are gone. The door closes. You lock it quietly, not because you expect them to return, but because you need something to do with your hands. No one speaks for a long time. Your brother stands by the window, his shoulders rigid. Your mother sits in her chair and smooths the blanket on her lap, again and again, though there are no wrinkles. Eventually, the baby cries. You sit back at the table, though the room feels smaller now. The visit was brief. Nothing happened. No accusations, no threats, no arrests. And yet, the pressure of their presence lingers like dust in the lungs. It is not the threat itself that frightens you most. It is the reminder of how easily they can step into your life, into your space, into your family, and reshape the air with only their presence. You glance at the bookshelf, at the spot where he had replaced the volume. It sits slightly crooked now, leaning to one side. You want to fix it, but your legs feel too heavy. The chair beneath you feels more like a ledge. You survived the visit. That is supposed to mean something, but the silence that follows feels just as dangerous as the knock that came before. Your brother has gone to bed. Your mother hums quietly to herself in the next room as she folds linen and pretends it matters. You remain where you are, back straight, hands folded in your lap, staring at nothing in particular. It rattles loose shutters and lifts stray newspapers along the curb. Somewhere farther off, a door slams. A dog barks once, then falls silent. The city does not sleep peacefully anymore. It only rests when it can, not in your memory, but in your body. It has carved a groove into the quiet of the apartment, one you cannot ignore. The questions were polite. The tone was calm, and yet the room had felt like it was shrinking with every word. You remember how even your mother's smallest gestures, her folded hands, her composed smiles, seemed to carry the weight of 100 calculations. Nothing that happened was remarkable, but nothing that happened was ordinary either. You are safe, at least for tonight. The water is cold and metallic, like everything else in this place. You dry the cup with a cloth and return it to the shelf. The kitchen is tidy. Every chair pushed in, every corner swept. The illusion of control is preserved, and yet nothing feels stable. It has not for years. You walk into the hallway, listening to the creak of the floorboards beneath your steps. You imagine him sitting at the edge of his bed, staring at the same spot on the floor that he always does when he thinks no one is watching. He is strong. You have always thought so. But strength here is not loud. It is not obvious. It is measured by silence, endurance, and restraint. In your mother's room, the baby makes a soft sound, no louder than a breath. You pause to listen. Your mother whispers something you cannot make out. The baby falls quiet again. You move on. Your room is small. A bed, a chair, a shelf with 2 books you have read a dozen times. The window is sealed tightly, the blackout curtain pulled across it with precision. You have always feared letting even a sliver of light escape during curfew. The thought of being responsible for drawing attention, for endangering your family, tightens your stomach every time. You undress slowly, folding each piece of clothing and setting it aside. Your coat is hung on the same hook, your shoes lined up neatly beneath the bed. Your hands move automatically, as they always do, from habit. Routine has become your shield, the one thing that remains unchanging. The building is quiet now. The street outside is still. You listen to the sound until it disappears entirely, absorbed by the night. But you know they are there, just as you know the fear is still there, even now, even here in the dark. You try to recall the last time you truly rested, not just slept, but rested, when your dreams were not shaped by alarms or missing faces, when your waking hours did not begin with worry and end with silence. You cannot remember. The days blur together now, one indistinguishable from the next. Each one is marked not by what happens, but by what does not. You measure time by absences. No sirens today, no news, no unexpected letters, no names spoken aloud. There are scuff marks there, a pale stain from when the ceiling leaked last winter. You think about the people you used to know, friends from school, co-workers from jobs long gone. Some left quietly, others loudly, some disappeared altogether. You remember their faces only in pieces now, and you do not speak of them. Even in your own mind, you try to forget. You wonder if they still exist, buried beneath the layers of silence and control, or if they have been erased entirely, replaced by something colder, something smaller. There is no answer, only sleep, eventually. Not the kind that refreshes, but the kind that simply interrupts the hours. As your body finally begins to relax, your mind does not follow. It drifts, slow and uncertain, through memories you do not want and futures you cannot imagine. You think of tomorrow, of walking the same streets, sitting at the same desk, writing the same numbers, listening for footsteps, watching the sky, measuring every word, every movement, every breath. You do not live in 1940s Germany. You endure it, and you have learned that survival here is not a matter of strength, but of stillness, of knowing when to speak and when not to, of erasing yourself just enough to remain, of becoming so quiet that the fear cannot find you, but it always does, and it always will.